What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Brad's Bioactive Builds, where I do step-by-step, do-it-yourself, naturalistic animal enclosures. In today's video, I'll be doing an update on this paludarium I did nearly 2 years ago. I'm super excited to let you all know I'm going to be doing another DIY series on an 8 foot wide, 4 feet deep, 6 foot high paludarium. The last time you saw this paludarium, it looked something like this. It was freshly planted, and life just started to begin. I do have a full DIY video from start to finish. I'll link it in the description below. This humid environment is ideal for plant growth. It did take a few weeks for everything to start growing in fully, but once it did, man did it take off. The canopy really got dense, but I was curious to see how much it would grow in before cutting it back. From that point, I would trim the growth back as needed. For the last 2 years, this is where the paludarium was housed, in the reptile room. But I had to start breaking everything down, removing the substrate and water, so I can get it off the shelf and move it out of the reptile room, and put it in another part of the house. It's sad to see this build leave, but I did give it to a friend that did an amazing job putting it back together. But let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. After getting the paludarium situated in its new spot, there was a few adjustments I had to make. Since I won't have the water overflow hooked up to my sump pump, I had to reconfigure everything. The first adjustment I had to do was cut some PVC fittings to fit into the water overflow for the land and water section. Cut my 2-inch pieces, applied sealant to the threads, screwed it into the 90-degree elbow that has a barbed fitting for a 5/8 hose. Slid on the hose, tightened it down with a hose clamp. Cut it to my desired length so I can tie in a T-fitting that will connect to my water overflow hoses. Now for the water portion, water overflow, I did the same process as before, just connected to a longer hose. That will connect to the receiving end of my T-fitting. Did a quick mock-up so I can cut my hoses to the right length. It was a little bit of a struggle working behind the paludarium because there wasn't a lot of room, but I made it work. Mocked up the water overflow container that'll be connected to this hose, so the water overflow has a reservoir for all the water to collect when it drains. Installed the hose into the bucket, cemented in my fittings to make it watertight. I fused this one in at a 45-degree angle so it wouldn't kink my hose while routing it to my T-fitting. Did a quick water test to check for any leaks. While I was behind the paludarium, I figured it would be a good time to replace the hose that connects to my exterior canister filter that operates the left side waterfall. Moved the paludarium back into the final resting place. Cleaned and wiped down the glass, getting rid of any debris or unwanted growth. Quick shout out to my Patreons. Your added support is super appreciated. Did a fairly deep layer of aqua balls in the land section. This will give a place for water to congregate and create beneficial bacteria. In the original build I used weed barrier, but this time I'm going to use screen mesh, hopefully allowing the water to drain, getting through the substrate down into the false bottom a little bit easier. Mainly because there's going to be about 8 or 10 inches of substrate and I didn't want it to get waterlogged. Dumped in some of the original ABG mix that was already established with isopods and springtails. Also use a fresh bag to top everything off. Replanted the plants. Vacuumed up any substrate that fell into the water section. Placed on the shelf that will hold my Zoom Ed exterior canister filter. Since I won't be running a line from the existing Mist King system, I purchased a starter pack. The water reservoir will be a 3.5 gallon bucket. Installed the bulkhead. Tightened it down a half turn after being finger tight. Assembled the filter. Cut some hose. Pushed it into the filter so I can connect it into my bulkhead, filling up the reservoir with distilled water. Programmed the timer to go off at night and in the morning for 30 seconds, and gave it a quick test run. Reuse the original gravel. In the future, when I do a build like this, I would add Polygem Zoopoxy over the divider between the land and water portion. I'll add a card in the top right corner now of what I'm talking about, but the way I set this up originally is held up just fine, just in case you were wondering. Scaped out the water portion of the Paludarium using driftwood and spiderwood. Filled it up a quarter of the way with water so I can start planting. I already have a matured filter, but in addition, I'll be adding prime. Tested out the pump on the right side waterfall. Plugged in the canister filter for the left side waterfalls. For the land portion of this Paludarium, I cut back a lot of the plants so I can watch new growth come in as time passes. I will be adding more plants in the days to come, but give me some of your suggestions on what I should put in. I'm looking for ones that aren't going to overtake the Paludarium and easy to maintain. Sprinkled in leaf litter to create refuge for the microfauna. Along with nut pods, seed pods, and other botanicals. Attached a PVC pipe for the fogger. And added some more isopods and springtails. In the original video, I get a lot of questions on how the air duct system and 40mm fans are holding up. I'm happy to report it's doing amazing. In the tank I gave away, it was running strong for 8 years, but here's a quick simulation on how it works pulling air from the bottom, teeing it off at the top. Also, I've had no issues with the custom lid. I'll drop a link in the description below. If you're doing a Paludarium or a setup that requires a lot of humidity and a glass top, this is definitely the way to go. It's vented and also has ports for your Mist King nozzles. Once again, I go over this entire build step by step in the original video. This Paludarium continues to be one of my favorite builds. I really enjoy nature, and especially the water feature aspect of it. So with that, it has given me some pretty big ideas for a build I have planned for the future, just on a much larger scale. In the meantime, let's take a look at the Paludarium we recreated. It is a little bit of a controversial topic of adding dart frogs to a Paludarium. 1, I just make sure that I have a lot of surface area. 2, that they can get out of the water with ease. And 3, watch and study them for the duration while they're in the Paludarium, having a backup enclosure on the ready to make sure that they have a safe place to land. But with the pure size of this enclosure, they have a lot of surface area to roam, while maximizing the gallons in the aquatic section. Let me be the first to introduce you to Benny the Betta. This brings back memories from being a kid because my mom always had one, so he's a nice addition to the Paludarium. I definitely wanted to get all the inhabitants back into the enclosure while I continued scaping. With that, I added some dragonstone, some more plants and neon tetras while they grow out before they go into their permanent aquarium. Added the shrimp back into their remodeled home. and gave everyone a good feed. If you made it this far in the video, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps this channel continue to grow. For a playlist on some of my favorite DIY builds, check it out right here. For a whole 6-part series enclosure build, check out this playlist right there. For some other videos you might like, check it out right here. Thanks for watching.